Hundreds of protesters showed up in Oklahoma this week to protest these new legislation they're looking where they're gonna ban forms of gender-affirming care for trans youth. It's been a consistent of battle and fight that folks are having. Many politicians running on this as well. And now these right-wingers are comparing this protest of peaceful protesters that showed up to the January 6th insurrection, because that makes sense, doesn't it? So let me give you guys a better idea of what these protesters were actually doing as we talk about what right-wingers are saying actually happened afterwards. See if any of this makes any sense. Watch. So as that happened, I want you guys to continue to keep in your mind January 6th, the pictures and images that you saw from that day, as we look at the way Tucker Carlson of Fox News tried to describe that scene that we just saw.
Complain about January 6th again tonight. Our democracy came as close to unraveling as during the Civil War. Please, what a lie. What a total shameless lie that is. But we're also betting Biden will not mention the insurrection that just occurred in the state capital of Oklahoma. A group of so-called trans activists stormed the state capitol there on Monday. They occupied it. Their goal is to keep child mutilation legal in Oklahoma.
So-called activists, apparently, that's the problem there. So obviously Tucker Carlson wasn't there, but he has lots of opinions on it that were written by producers for him to read off of a teleprompter about what it was that was going on. There were some folks that were there, surprisingly, and it's what they said the scene was like. Daniel Seitz, who's a communications director for the Oklahoma House Republican Caucus, also said in a statement on Twitter that none of the protesters had broken the law. The Oklahoma House will support and defend the First Amendment rights of all who come to have their voices heard. That's what a statement said in part. Regarding Monday's protest, there were no reported incidents or unlawful behavior, and any national narrative to that contrary is false. Still though, they're gonna say it because they know folks that watch, people that watch Tucker Carlson and believe the things that he says are gonna believe what he is saying over the reality. Still though, the ramifications of this proposed anti-gender affirming care legislation would have some serious impacts on the trans youth community. That's not being talked about in these hate circles. Ramona Diaz, one of the protest organizers, said that she's worried about the bill to bar gender affirming care for people up to 26 years old because she's 23 and receives hormone therapy. Says, I can purchase a firearm, is what she told 9 News. I can smoke marijuana, I can drink alcohol, I can go to war, but I can't choose what to do with my own body. So again, the reason you may get some of this hate that's going around some of these folks is because they do listen to the Tucker Carlsons and Fox Newses of the world. Also, I did see, apparently this is what this was about, because I saw Matt Walsh, who's always has opinions about these types of things, commenting on people's sizes of their bodies, the look of their faces, their hair color, things like that, because that has everything to do with this as well. It's all about the hatred surrounding it and making sure that you other enough people that you can then treat them as subhuman. And then the hate that flows from that just goes along with the entire thing. Open up to comments from you guys about this as these fights continue to happen. Let's start with AB. AB, what's your thoughts on this, man?
I mean, it's unfortunate that right-wingers will decentralize the real issue at hand. And what it is that you are preventing people from enjoying life, liberty, and their pursuit of happiness. These people that were there protesting were doing so under their First Amendment right. Their right to assemble, and their right to assemble so that they can bring forth their issues to their government. What they did not do in comparison to the January 6th insurrectionists is they did not kick the doors down. They did not bust the windows open. They were not in spaces where they had no business being. And they actually came with a mission and a cause. They were not trying to overthrow the government. They were trying to get the government to pay attention to them. And so I think that's the very difference in what happened between these the protesters and what happened on January 6th. But once again, their goal was not to overthrow the government. The goal was to have government respect them for the people that they are and the people that they want to be.
Is there any thought that anyone who actually is saying that believes it. Because again, you can see the images, you can see the protests, you can see what it is about, and none of that, of course, was happening. You may even listen to a couple of these Republicans that said, no, that's not it. Your thoughts here, Ramesh?
Yeah, they're not playing to belief necessarily, or definitely not reason here. The goal here, both of this proposed bill, as well as the ways in which it's being described by people like Tucker Carlson, is to play to emotion, to focus on the core motivating psychology, which is fear, and they are out to get us, right? That is what it's playing to, rather than any sort of logic. Because of course, it's notable in the clip that you showed, JR. We see someone putting up a sign saying we are not a threat, and everything we see from this actual protest is it's extremely peaceful, which was confirmed by a Republican himself. So what are they protesting for? That's actually, I think, important. They're protesting for care, protesting for care. We just want to be taken care of because we are transgender people, and we want health care and medical care. That is obviously, as you just said, completely different than trying to violently kill members of Congress who were dutifully elected and overthrow a government. So there's nothing similar about this whatsoever, but it's not about similarities, it's about playing to heightened emotions to rile people up. And quite honestly, I think that this is pretty much the main kind of stakes, the main kind of gambit that the Republicans seem to have, and people like Tucker Carlson seem to have. They just play to arouse us and outrage us.
I actually didn't notice that sign until you mentioned it, that we are not a threat, that one particular person was holding there. Yeah. And again, it's almost like they knew in advance that this was gonna be some of the narrative. We're not a threat. And then if you ask that question, what is it that folks like Tucker Carlson think is the threat? Matt Walsh, again, they say they're coming for our children. They're gonna indoctrinate our children, tell the children to do this. Kids do that, and then they get mutilated, then they do this and the third thing. And that's always the narrative. So at the same time, then saying hateful things about these folks. So there's this assumption that they care about folks, and we need to make sure we protect the children. That means you want to save them, you like them, right? Then there's also, they're subhuman and we need to get rid of them, they're coming for us. Which one is it?
The key there is the subhuman part. That's really the key here. And actually, you alluded to it earlier, Jer, when you were talking about how Matt Walsh has mentioned, there might be certain kind of facial features or brain sizes or these sorts of anatomical data. That just plays to a classic trope in racism and in eugenics itself, right? We know for centuries, indigenous peoples, black peoples, et cetera, were pathologized or actually expressed as being subhuman or not as evolved as quote unquote essentially white human beings. And that was actually reduced to kind of claims that were anatomical, right? All of these things have been totally scientifically debunked, but I think it's very notable to notice how history is repeating itself here in terms of how people like Matt Walsh are describing our transgender brothers and sisters and them,
We're not even sure if they assume that their followers will follow this along. Last thoughts on this, AP?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that's being said at this moment. It is a repeat of history and encouraging that fear. But that's the only thing you can do when you have no factual basis to the arguments that you're making, is you try to appeal to the emotion. Yep. But I think what we need to also pay attention to is the fact that you don't want people to indoctrinate your children on the way that they're choosing to live, but it's okay to indoctrinate other people's children to feel like they're not important in society and they're not accepted in this world. So we need to look at both sides of the coin here.
Oh, well, that's something that's not really on their agenda at all.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.